Hi, this is Mona at cupcakescreations.blogspot.com. Today we're going to be making a video on showing how to make this card. I made this card for a color challenge and I posted it on my blog. And Jen Johnson, one of my followers, requested that I make a tutorial on how to make this card. And it's one of my favorite because of the multi-layering of the different die cuts and the stamping and embossing. So we're going to do that today. So let's get started in making our card. So the first step you need to do is take 8.5 by 11 piece of Stampin' Up! Craft cardstock, cut it in half, and now you have an 8.5 by 5.5 piece of paper, which then you score down the center, making the piece of paper 5.5 by 4.25 inches big. And you can go ahead and put that aside. And the next step is to cut your layers of colored paper, which will be rose red, cut 4 1/8 inches by 5 3/8 inches. Your very vanilla layer, which will be 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Your Regal Rose layer, which will be 3 7/8 by 5 1/8 inches. And the Blush Blossom layer, which will be 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And once you have your layers cut, you can set those aside except for the Blush Blossom, which we're going to take and emboss using a Cuttlebug embossing folder and the Ellison Big Shot machine. Now that that's embossed, you can set that aside. And while we have the machine out, we're going to go ahead and cut out our other die cuts for this card. So for this, the flourishes, I used the Sizzix Flower and Vines No. 2 Sizzix die with a piece of craft paper. And you can see how nicely that machine cuts these flourishes out. Real crisp edges. Just peel them off your paper and set the scraps aside. And then we're going to go and cut out the oval that we need for our card. So the layer again is the big white platform, a clear plate, the Stampin' Up! Craft paper in the Sizzlet oval long No. 2 tag, once you have that cut, you can put your machine off to the side. Now we can punch out our different flowers using the Boho Blossom Stampin' Up! Punch. And you need many of these flowers, and although it cuts 3 at a time, I found with my punch that it works best trying to just cut 1 at a time. And you can see it's going to get little snippets in there. But sometimes I think that paper just gets too thick in there and it doesn't cut very well. And you need many of these different little flowers in different sizes of the various colors. So you kind of get the hang of it. And once you have all your little flowers cut, you can move on to stamping your images. And these flowers on this card are made using Stampin' Up's one-of-a-kind stamp set. And I took the rose red ink and the Regal Rose ink, and you get some nice ink on your stamp. Stamp your image, and while that's drying, close up your pad and kind of help it along here. And what's really great about these nesting punches is you can put them right over your stamped image, and you can see it'll give a nice cut every time right around your stamped image. And you do those for several of the different flowers that we have on the card. And also the 1/2 inch Stampin' Up! Circle punch is used for cutting out the other little flowers. And this particular stamped image I had to cut out by hand, and after you have that hand cut, you can set that aside, and now we can move on to assembling our card. So, taking all your layers, I used Scotch double-sided tape, and we put those together using the tape. And then once you have them together, you can set it aside, and now we take it and we have to glue on our flourishes, which is the base here. And you can see I have a sample already done, and I prefer this Zig two-way glue pen because of its has such a fine point on it, like a ballpoint pen, and you have great control of that glue coming out of there, and you can see it. You have control of it, and you just need a few little dots on your paper. And you don't want to use too much because it'll leave a clear residue left on your card. So after you glue down the flourishes like so, you can start putting on your floret. The first image you put on your card is the big flower one. And what I did to make things easier to handle, instead of trying to work with all these little pieces, I pre-assembled all my little florets and using this two-way glue pen again because of the great control. It's all you need is just a little dot on the back of your flower, and you can see how nice it controls. And that's all you need is just one little dot, and it'll adhere it really well. And so you go ahead and do that, and you center that image where you'd like it and pierce your hole through it. Now there's many layers here, so you have to push pretty hard. And I took these little brown brads here, and then you flip it over and flatten out the back of your brads. And the butt of this, you can see I use it a lot. My paper piercing tool works great, then you don't ruin your fingernails. So once you put that flower on, you move on to assemble all the rest of the flowers. Okay, so once you have all your flowers assembled, you take your card front, and again using 3M double-sided tape, take your card front, put the tape on it, and assemble it onto and fasten it onto your card. And there you have it, your multi-layered card with many punched out and die-cut flowers and flourishes and stamped out images and embossed layers. And this card is so beautiful because there's so many layers to it. So I hope you enjoyed making this multi-layered die-cut card with me. And again, I was inspired to make this card from a color challenge. And you can find further instructions on my website at cupcakescreations.blogspot.com, and the whole recipe is listed there, and supplies, used, etc. Thanks for joining me.